What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Life of Mike. Where we left off on the last episode, we had got the tail section and the seat cowl all fitted up on the bike, and man, it really looks amazing. You can see we've got our integrated tail light in here as well, and I'm really happy with how this thing is starting to turn out. So a couple things we need to address right out of the gate. I still need a bolt down here. Not a bolt, I'm sorry, I need a nut down here for one of the motor mounts. The nut that was there prior was for a special frame slider kit. And when I removed the frame slider kit, there's actually a different size bolt that the nut needs to fit up to, and I don't have one of those nuts on hand. So I'll probably order the OEM nut. I'm thinking about doing an oil change, I'm not quite sure. Either way, I think I'm gonna order a new drain plug at the bottom. It's a little bit rusty, not in the best condition, so even if I sell it, I'll probably give that to the next owner. Couple things I need to order, but I think today we can focus on doing the front cowl and anything up here in the front of the bike. I need to mount the front headlights, and I need to do the mirrors as well. I'm trying to think what else we could get done. I think I'm also going to do the little ignition cap here. I've got some hardware that I can use to fit that up, make that look nice and clean, and we could probably do the front fender as well. So for this episode, let's try to knock those things out, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this will probably be the easiest part of the day, but you can see there are some little threaded inserts on the back of this ignition cover, and basically this just goes on like this, and it actually it covers up a lot of this old corroded ignition switch here. So when you put that on there like that, it's actually going to clean things up quite a bit. And I believe I've got some hardware that will work that came with the NT Fairing kit that we can use for this. So let's go ahead and get this installed and see how it looks. All right, so after grabbing the hardware that I thought would work for this installation, it looks like I'm gonna have to go to Ace Hardware and grab a little bit longer screw here, because you can see they don't quite make it all the way through the upper triple clamp here. So I'm just gonna get a slightly longer screw here and we'll be good to go. So since that won't work, let's go ahead and move on to the front fender and see if we've got all the right hardware to get that mounted. So let's do that next. All right, so for the front fender, as far as the finish goes, it looks amazing. There are a couple of spots where you can see there's some sort of an insert that's required here in order to basically tidy up the front brake lines, and that does not come with the kit, or at least I didn't see it in the kit that I purchased. And thankfully, I have the OEM fender that came with the bike when I purchased it. And you'll notice that there are these inserts here on the side of the fender that are just secured on there by a rivet. And I've already removed the rivet on this side, and you can see this is what the insert looks like with the rivet removed. And on one side it's just a threaded hole, and on the other side there's a threaded stud. So I don't have a rivet gun or any rivets, so I'll probably install this without the rivets for now. I can always come back and add the rivets later. But for now, let's go ahead and get the other insert out of that side. And I'll probably have to clean up the holes that the insert fits through. This side actually looks okay. The right side looks a little bit more messy, so I'll probably have to clean up that slot just a little bit, and then we should be able to get this fender mounted. All right, we've got the front fender mounted up and everything looks great. I ended up using just some plastic bushings in with the rubber grommets down there, instead of the what I would consider ugly stock reflectors. But anyways, I'm really happy with how the front fender looks. Everything fit really great. I didn't rivet the tidy clips, if you want to call them that, to the fender. We've got some pretty sturdy fasteners going through here, and I don't think I'm going to come back and actually go get a rivet gun and rivets to rivet it to the fender. Whoever the future owner is, if they'd like to do that, they are welcome to. But right now, as you can see, it is very sturdy. And because the clip itself is poking through the fender, that actually provides the clocking, and it prevents it from turning when you're tightening things down. So happy with how that turned out. So now I think we're gonna move our way up to the front cowling. Now I believe that requires me to assemble the headlights to the cowling off of the fairing. So we'll go ahead and try to do that first. And once we've got the headlight all assembled, we'll look and see how it all fits together. And because I'm still debating doing the oil change, I don't think I'm gonna do the side fairings today. But for now, let's see what we can do with the front cowling. But what you didn't see off camera was I went ahead and threw this together real fast. So there's a little lower cowling. It comes in 2 pieces, and it was all secured by just a few screws on the inside of the fairing. I had 2 that were OEM screws and 1 that I just grabbed off the workbench. So while I was at Ace Hardware, I went ahead and grabbed some screws to mount the ignition cover, as well as a chrome screw for this side. You'll notice I have a stainless one over here. They didn't have any stainless in the length I wanted, but previously all I had was this rusted out screw. So I was able to get a chrome one, so we'll be installing that. We'll install this, and then we'll continue installing the front cowl. I also had to get some new fasteners for up here. The ones that come with the mirrors are a little bit too long, so they would not work with this fairing stay. So went and got a little bit shorter fasteners. I'm hoping they work out well. But yeah, so let's go ahead. We'll do this, and then we'll do the bar end, and we'll continue with the front cowl. So let's keep rolling. So after reviewing some photos online, I realized that it would be easier to mount the headlights into the cowling if I remove the harness up to this point right here. A lot of the pictures I saw where people removed the front cowling, it still had the wire harness attached to the headlights. So as you can see, for anyone who's going through this as well, I started laying out the harness for basically how the wire is naturally bent, and it happened to have a little pin, I don't know what you call this, little Christmas tree that fit through here. We've got the left turn signal connector over here, the right turn signal connector over here, of course the connectors for the headlights themselves, and this is the gauge cluster, and through here we have the plug for the tip sensor, which I still need to install there, or the bank angle sensor, I guess is the right terminology for it. But if I turn it around, you can sort of see how it's laid out, but not a whole lot to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and organize all that, install the bank angle sensor, and then I think we should be good to mount it in the front cowling. Okay, I figured this would probably be a good point in the time lapse to show you where we're at. So I've got the ductwork all installed. It took a couple of pop rivets. Get the screw type up top and the push type on the bottom. The screw type didn't want to go in on the red pieces for some reason, so I had the push type. It worked a little bit better. So now that I've got the ductwork in place, I've also ran my wiring for my turn signals here. So you can see I've installed some flush mount turn signals. They are just the stick-on adhesive type, and I think they look pretty good. Very low profile, smoked out just like the taillight. And I've got my Cavalier King Charles helping me out with the build, so she's having fun too. All right, so next part to this build is going to be actually installing the headlight assembly. So I'll see how the wiring likes to flow underneath here. It looks like there are some natural or intentional recesses under the ducting here, or on top of the ductwork, so that I can run my wiring underneath the headlight. So I'm gonna go ahead and start fitting up the headlight assembly, and I think this thing is just about ready to go on the bike. Okay, so after some drilling and a little bit of frustration, I was finally able to get the full headlight assembly and the ductwork all mounted inside the front cowling. Now, some of the areas I had some troubles with, in case anyone is trying this in the future, this side and this side over here, getting the little snap clips to the threaded clips to line up with the holes was a little bit challenging. You had to get the screw just right, and you had to push the fairing in just a little bit to get everything to line up. These top three guys up here, they went pretty easily. And one of them is actually behind the bank angle sensor, so I actually had the bank angle sensor off. I installed the middle mounting screw, and then I put the bank angle sensor in, which was a little bit tricky because I had to hold the nut back here while I torqued down these guys right here. So a little bit tricky, but after about an hour or so, it's all put together. So I've put some of the foam on the front fender there, and I need to connect this this gauge cluster connector here before I can actually slide in these pins and mount the mirror or mount the cowling to the bike through the mirror mounting screws. Man, that was a mouthful. So first thing I need to do is go grab my key, because if you'll recall in one of the previous episodes, this connector is a little finicky, so I want to make sure that before I bolt the whole front cowling down, that this is all nice and secure, that the gauge cluster works properly, and then once we know that it's good to go, I'll go ahead and tighten down the mirrors and everything, and we can actually put the windscreen on too. So let me grab the keys and we'll start fidgeting with this connector right here. Just like that, it's looking like a motorcycle again. So as you can see, I got the mirrors on, I got the whole front cowl on, turn signals work, gauge cluster works, and you'll notice towards the end of that time lapse, I was trying to fit in this last little piece of ductwork down here that I missed. It gets fitted with a couple of those little, what are they called? The plastic pop rivets. There's a couple that hold it on the other side from the inside, as well as to the radiator here. But I want to wait until I get the rest of the body panels on, the rest of the fairings on, to actually pop those in because I'm not sure if they overlap one another. I think they might. So I'll wait to secure those guys in there, but at least they're in place now. And here, I'll go ahead and show you what the dash looks like. Everything's working perfect. 7,977 miles. Here's the walk around. Tail light works. Low beam, high beam. I'll do a turn signal. Really like these low profile turn signals and the integrated turn signal on the back. Really happy with how this turned out. Whoever gets this bike is going to be very happy with all the little details. And I went with a more angular front mirror setup here. It's normally I go with the round setup like I have on the ZX10, but I wanted to do something different since this bike has a lot of sharp angles. I don't think it looks too bad. But anyhow, it's getting pretty late and I got work tomorrow, so I think the last thing I'm gonna do for the night is I'm gonna do the windscreen. That's real easy. Pop that on, then we'll clean up our mess and we'll call it a night. So let's get that windscreen on and finish up this episode. All right, and just like that, we're wrapping up another episode of the 2005 CBR600RR rebuild and restoration. So as you can see, we got the whole front end on pretty much, the front cowl, the headlights, the windscreen, front fender. We got the ductwork in place. We got all of the wiring set up. We got the front flush mount turn signals. We made sure everything works, the gauge cluster, all the hand controls, everything works perfectly. So now we are ready to do the final ductwork from the front cowl to the frame here. I believe this little connector here fits into the ductwork. I think it just pops in. But I guess I need to decide if I'm gonna do an oil change on this thing, because right now I've got everything open and exposed. So there is still a bolt I have to order. So if I'm gonna order, well, there's a nut that I have to order for one of the engine mounts. So if I have to order that bolt, should I just order a new drain plug? Probably. I don't think it's that expensive. And if I do that, we'll see if I do the oil. I'm definitely gonna do the brakes. I need to bleed the brakes, put in some new brake fluid, and then this thing's pretty much done. One other little detail I think I'm gonna do is the shock adjuster stickers here. I did order a couple new snap rings and stickers, so we'll go ahead and get those installed. That'll be one of the final touches, but that pretty much wraps up today. If you haven't seen the other episodes, go ahead and check out the series from the beginning. This has been a really big turnaround from what it looked like when I brought it home. I hope you're enjoying this build series, and make sure you stay tuned for future episodes of this 2005 CBR600RR.